This may come as a shock to everyone, but I'm not a very good runner. I compete in a few events every year and I struggle to finish. My races and my result times are important to nobody else, but they are important to me. My main goal when I enter a race is simply to finish, but I do want to finish feeling that I've done a good job. I am not a good runner. I'm slow and my specialities are falling over, getting lost and being hit by trees. I struggle to finish, but I do finish. And I'm often one of the last, but never quite last. On the 4th of May, I ran a 65-kilometer ultra trail in Innsbruck. The trail was beautiful, but I did struggle over the last 20 kilometers. I had spent months preparing for this. It was my big race of the season. I had spent a lot of time not only running, but also planning and practicing my nutrition. And that part of my plan worked out really well. Although the last part of my race was tough, I had the satisfaction of knowing that I had followed my plan and eaten 1,800 calories exclusively of Spring Energy gels. In the early 1980s, some Austrian winemakers started adding the chemical diethylene glycol to their wines. Diethylene glycol is a component of antifreeze. When this adulteration was discovered, the resulting scandal almost destroyed the Austrian wine export market, and by association, the German wine export market. Although most wineries didn't follow this practice and the perpetrators were caught and punished, it didn't matter. People simply didn't trust these wines anymore, and it took years to rebuild their reputations, because that's the price when trust has been lost. I had been looking for a running food that didn't taste like I had bitten into a slug that I had found on a dead mango. And also one that didn't make my stomach go bad after a few hours. Now anytime I try to run, I get a stomach cramp within. Why do we need running food? In endurance running, we power our bodies through fat and carbohydrate. But after a while, the body's own supply of carbohydrates runs out, so we need to eat some carbohydrates to keep going efficiently. I was at the Munich Marathon last year, taking it as seriously as ever. And I took a look at the Sport Hunger stand. Sport Hunger are a local startup, a couple of lads working hard to build a business in the niche market of sport nutrition where personal recommendations are everything. They recommended I try Spring Energy gels. I tried them and I liked them. I liked the taste and they seemed to be easy on my stomach. Very quickly I started using and training with Spring gels all the time. They were my source of nutrition in all of my races where I continued my career of not quite last place. I'm not a very good runner. Although I wasn't running well, I was happy that at least I had figured out the nutrition part, all building up to the 1,800 calories of spring gel that I relied on for my 65-kilometer trail in Innsbruck. Really? 2 weeks later. A trail runner posted on Reddit about a simple experiment she had done. She took a packet of Spring Energy's awesome sauce and dried it in the lab where she worked. With the water removed, she found there was only 16 grams of dry material left. How could 16 grams of dry solid material contain the 45 grams of carbohydrate advertised? And 16 grams of carbohydrate would only be about 64 calories and not 180. Alarm spread through the trail running community, reaching the ears of the guys at Sport Hunger. They sent a sample of their own to a laboratory. The result came back.
Leider sind es pro Gel nur 16 Gramm Kohlenhydrate.
The story spread, other lab tests were done. iRunFar sent several gels to be tested. All the other manufacturers tested did fine, but Spring Energy's awesome sauce and Canterbury had far fewer carbohydrates than were advertised on the packet. And in response to all this, Spring Energy said that there was nothing wrong with their gels, it was just a variation in some batches. In other words, they're not misleading, they're just incompetent. So what effect did all that have on my race? Well, I had planned to take on almost 2,000 calories, but in fact I got, half that? 1/3? I don't even know. But I had certainly far less energy than I expected, and I needed 4 hours to cover the last quarter of my race. Was that because of the spring gels? I don't know. I'm not a good runner, I'm slow anyway, so maybe the gels wouldn't have made a difference, but I would like to have known how things would have gone if I had been able to follow the plan that I had worked on for so many months. Throughout this whole affair, Sport Hunger has behaved with complete integrity. offering to reimburse customers. They understand that their business is built on trust. But as far as I can see, Spring Energy has only engaged in damage control. The worst part of it all is that it's really important to train with the food that you intend using to find out whether it works and what effect it will have on you. And I did exactly that. I used spring gels in all of my long runs, and now I have more events to do and I don't have time to practice with a new food. At the end of the day, it's a question of trust. We have to be able to trust that the food that we're putting into our body contains the ingredients that the manufacturers say they contain. And if that trust is broken, well,